How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying, what are we studying today? Daf Kuf Daled. Daf 104 of Masechta Yevamos. Who remembers what Daf Kuf Daled of Masechta Shabbos talks about? Some interesting stuff there, I think. Isn't that where the Gemara says that the word emes as opposed to sheker? Oh gosh, gotta stretch. Alright. Great, let's go weiter. Well, today we're talking about chalitza, friends. Well, says the Gemara, Cholzu b'layla chalitzasa kshere v'belazer posel. B'smol chalitzasa psula v'belazer machshir. What do you know? Says the Mishnah, let's read it again. Cholzu b'layla chalitzasa kshere. If you do chalitza at night, it's okay. V'belazer posel. Belazer says it's not okay. B'smol, if you do chalitza with the left foot, chalitzasa psula, so it's no good. Belazer machshir. Belazer says it's okay to use the left foot. Let's say that this is the machlokas between the Tanakama and Rebbe Elazar. The Tanakama says that if you do chalitza at night, it's kosher. Rebbe Elazar says if you do chalitza at night, it's possible. So let's say this is the machlokas. The marsav makshinon rivim linegoyim, umarsav lo makshinon rivim linegoyim. You hear that? So rivim are like dinim, like monetary cases, and chalitza is a monetary case, because then if she does chalitza, she can collect her ksubah. And negoyim is tzaras. Now tzaras has to be, it says uviyom hiros bo hanega, I think, something like that. That a dafka has to be done during the day. And therefore, if we can, and it says, right, what is it? V'chol rib v'chol naga. Right, so that's what it says in the pasuk. So we compare rivim l'negoyim, and just like tzaras needs to be what's the word? What's it called when like a doctor like looks at something, not observed but like checked out, ki'ilu, analyzed. What's the right word? To have a look at it. So tzaras needs to be have a look at it. That's nice. That could be a word. Have a look at it. How would you even use that? It's hurting my brain even to think how I would use that. I have a looked at it. Yeah, it was okay. I had a looked at it. So, therefore, if we compare dinim, which chalitza would be included in, if we compare that to negoyim, we would say that dinim have to be during the days, just like negoyim have to be during the day, and therefore chalitza has to be during the day, which is the opinion of Rebbe Elazar. Whereas the Tanakama who says that chalitza can even be at night, we don't compare dinim to rivim to negoyim, and therefore rivim, of which chalitza is under that category, doesn't have to be done during the day. However, everybody says we do not compare rivim to negoyim. Because we know that by dine mominis, by monetary cases, so you have to start during the day, but if you can finish it at night, that's okay. You start during the day, but you can finish it at night. Now, if we really compare dinim or rivim to negoyim, well, negoyim have to be done during the day, so then I would say that dinim have to start and finish during the day. They can't be at night. So therefore, everyone agrees that we do not compare rivim to negoyim. Rather, this is machlokas between the Tanakama and Rebbe Elazar. Ma'asover chalitza ketchilas din damyu, ma'asover chalitza kigmar din damyu. That Rebbe Elazar says that chalitza is like the beginning of a din, and just like the beginning of a monetary case has to be done during the day, so also chalitza has to be done during the day. Whereas the Tanakama says that we compare chalitza to like the end of a din, which is at just like the end of the din could be at night. You could finish the case at night, so also chalitza can be done at night. Rava bar Chia katoisva ovad uvda b'muku v'yichidu alayla. Okay. The Rava bar Chia katosva, so he presided over a chalitza b'muk, and he used a felt shoe, uvichidi, and he was the only one presiding over it. There were no 3 judges. Uvalayla, and at night. Omer Shmuel. Now Shmuel said, Kamarav Guvre David ki yichida. Wow, what a great rabbi, sarcastically he says. What a great rabbi that he did like a lone opinion. Obviously you're not supposed to do like a lone opinion. My kasha. The Gemara says, I don't understand what Shmuel is getting so excited about. Imuk stomatanya, Ilayla stomatanya. Right? If we're talking about a felt shoe, we learned yesterday, or I think it was yesterday, we learned about felt shoes. We said that right? We had a brisa that said that a felt shoe is fine. You could use it. Right? Ilayla stomatanya. Right? If we're talking about doing chalitza at night, we just learned in our Mishnah, the Tanakama says you're allowed to do chalitza at night. So Eli Yichidi Kokashele, Shmuel was getting excited about the fact that Rava Bachir Katusva presided over a chalitza by himself. Heichi Ovid B'Yichidi. How could he preside over it by himself? Tichida Katanila, because that is only a lone opinion that you'll be allowed to preside over chalitza by yourself. Ditnan, as we learn in the Mishnah, Cholzu B'Shnayim or B'Shlosha. This is going to be the Mishnah that we're going to learn in a few minutes. That if she did chalitza and presiding were only 2 judges, or B'Shlosha, or 3 judges, and then, I'm sorry, meaning either with 2 judges or with 3 judges where one of them turned out to be a relative or otherwise pasul, i.e. one of them was disqualified and therefore you only have 2. Chalitza psula, so chalitza is pasul. Reb Yochanan Asander machshirim, whereas Reb Shimon and Reb Yochanan and Asander say no, two judges presiding over chalitza is okay. There was taka a story where a chalitza happened in jail. A chalitza happened in jail, mamish. And it was just between the Yavam and the Yevamu. And Rabbi Akiva then said it was kosher. So we see that that's just opinion, right? So if I understand correctly, we're saying that it was just Rabbi Akiva alone presiding over this, and Rabbi Akiva alone said it was kosher. And also it's just the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yosef Amanyomi, Amr of Nachman, and Locha Koso Azug. Rabbi Yosef Amanyomi said the name of Rav Nachman, that Locha is not like that pair. Although I think that Gosabach gets rid of this. I guess that makes sense because it's kind of random here. So what do we see? So that's just the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, that one judge can preside. So how could Rava Bar Chia Katosfa have presided on his own over this chalitza? That's what Shmuel was getting excited about. V'ibay Semer, if you want, Kulunam Yichida Katanilu, you could say that all 3 of them were individual opinions, right? Doing chalitza at night, doing chalitza with a felt shoe, doing chalitza with only 1 judge. It's all a singular opinion. Titania, as we learn in the Brisa, Amr Bishma Rabbi Yossi, says Rabbi Yishmael, the son of Rabbi Yossi, Ani Ra'isi es Rabbi Yishmael ben Elisha, I take saw Rabbi Yishmael ben Elisha, shecholas b'muk b'yichidi uvalayla, that he presided over a chalitza by himself, where the shoe was made of felt, and at night. Okie dokie. So therefore, it's the opinion of, Rava Bar Chia Katosfa was doing like Rabbi Yishmael ben Elisha, and that is a lone opinion, and that's why Shmuel got excited about it, and was acted sarcastically in reference to Rava Bar Chia Katosfa. Said the Mishnah, B'smoch chalitza v'chulei. So we saw a machlokas between the Tanakama, who says that chalitza may not be done with the left foot, and Rabbi Elazar says it can. So my time with the Rabbanan, how come the rabbis say chalitza cannot be done with the left foot? Amar Ula says Ula yafinon regel mi mitzorah. Well, we learn out Gzeira Shavet. It says regel, of course, by chalitza, right? V'cholotza is nailum me'al ragloi. So it says regel, of course, by chalitza, and also says regel boyin ragla yemonis by mitzorah. So malahalim diyom and afkan diyom. So just like by the purification process of a mitzorah, we place blood on the toe of his right foot. So here also by chalitza, dafka has to be the right foot. Rabbi Elazar lo yalef regel mi mitzorah, and Rabbi Elazar does not learn out the Gzeira Shava of regel from mitzorah. And therefore, he says that by chalitza it doesn't have to be the right foot. Tanya, Rabbi Elazar, Omer. But 1 second, we have a brisa where Rabbi Elazar says, "Minayin the ritzia shibozin aimanis." How do you know that by an Eved Ivri, You have a Jewish slave, he sells himself into slavery, and after 6 years, when it's time to go free, he says he wants to stay. So they take him, they say, stand next to the door and don't move. Then they take a nail, they take a hammer, they drive the nail through his ear, and then he could stick around for a while, for the rest of his life. That, I never thought of this. Friends, did you ever think about this? Then what happens? They tell him to stand. They tell him to stand by the doorpost. They say, stand still, don't move. They take a nail and they nail his ear into the door. And then he's just stuck there forever? I never thought about what happens next. They just nailed the guy to the door. He just stays there forever. I guess he definitely really is there forever. Although he's probably not going to be serving much other than just asking for food. Alright, never really thought about that. Okay, very good. Well, alright, you nail his right ear to the door. Alright, well, what do you want me to tell you? So, fine. So, it says Rabbi Elazar that it says Ozen by this fellow who wants to stand, wants to just kind of stand by the door for the rest of his life. It says Ozen by a Mitzorah. So just like by a Mitzorah, we're talking about the right ear. So also this doorman fellow nails his right ear to the door. All right. Yitzchak Bar Yosef Rav Yochanan Mechilefes Hashita. So Rav Yitzchak Bar Yosef says the name of Rav Yochanan that you got to switch it around, right? Meaning, right? We said that when it comes to our doorman. When it comes to the doorman, oh my gosh. Mom, you see, I'm funny. I think I'm funny. Anyways. Yeah, you guys are stuck with me. So anyways, when it comes to I can't say it, it's just too funny. When it comes to the doorman, alright, I said it without laughing. Maybe now I can continue my sentence. It's a step in the right direction. Alright. So the doorman. So, what are we even talking about? Right, so Rabbi Elazar says that when it comes to the doorman, when it comes to the doorman, so then it's his right ear. Because we learn out Ozen for the doorman from Ozen from the Mitzorah. So if that's the case, then we should say the same thing by the foot by Chalitza. Right, that just like it says regel by mitzorah, it says regel by chalitza. It should be the right foot. So says Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Yosef from Rabbi Yochanan. You know what? You're right. Switch around our Mishnah and say that Rabbi Elazar is the one who says that it has to be the right foot, just like by the doorman, he says it has to be the right ear. Okay. Rava Omar Lolam Lo Tepuch. Rava says no, don't switch anything around. Ozen mufne regel mufne. There's a difference, right? If we've seen before the concept of Gzeir Shava Mufna. Right? That would Gzeir Shava, of course, it says this word here, it says the same word in another place. Let's compare them. Let's learn one from the other. So now that only works when they're available, when sort of the word is extra. It doesn't need to be there. Now, so Rava says, look, when it comes to Ozen, the word ear is extra in both locations, so we can learn the Gzeir Shava. But here by Regel, it's not available in both locations, and therefore we cannot learn out the Gzeir Shava. So therefore, even though Rabbi Elazar says by the doorman, that the Gzeir Shava, he doesn't say so by the Chalitza. Fine. So now frek the Gemara, v'chilo mufne, my pircha is ika. But then the Gemara asks, so 1 second, so who? Great, so it's not available. Regel isn't available, but still, right? Rabbi Elazar's opinion is that when you have a Gzeir Shava that isn't available per se, you could still use it as long as you can get away with it. What do I mean by that? If there's a question to ask, meaning if the Gzeir Shava is available, right, the word Ozen is extra in both places, so okay, we say Gzeir Shava. But by Regel, where it's not extra in both places, so we say, look, if there's a question that we can ask about it, so it'll basically throw it in the garbage. But as long as we don't have any problems with the Gzeir Shabbos, so let's use it. So Gemara wants to say, what's the problem with using regel? So that, well, mitzora, it makes sense to say that it's limited to the right foot and it's more stringent because it has other stringencies, like you have to use cedar tree and hyssop and much nitolas, scarlet wool or something. So it's more stringent, and therefore we could say you can't necessarily learn out chalitza from mitzora because mitzora is more stringent. Fine, and therefore I can understand why Rabbi Elazar says that by the doorman you need to use the right ear, but by chalitza he doesn't say the right shoe, because by the doorman ozen is extra, but by chalitza regel is not extra. Says the Mishnah, chaltza v'rakika avalo kara. Okay, so friends, there's like three components to chalitza. There is the chalitza, there's pulling the shoe off the foot. There's also spitting. She needs to spit on the floor. And then there's also reading, right? As we're going to see over the next few days, that she reads the text, right? She reads the part that she needs to read. The Yavam reads the part that he needs to read. So chaltza v'rakika avalo kara. So if she did chalitza, if she spat on the floor, but she didn't read the psukim she's meant to read, chalitza ksher, that's fine. As long as she removed the shoe and spat on the floor, it's fine. Kara v'rakika, if she read what she needed to read, she spat on the floor, avalo chaltza, but she didn't remove the shoe from the foot, chalitza psula, that's not going to work. Chaltza v'kara, if she removed the shoe from the foot, she read what she needed to read, avalo rakaka, but she didn't spit on the floor. Rabbi Elazar Omer chalitza psula. Rabbi Elazar says it's possible, it doesn't work. Rabbi Kiva Omer chalitza ksher. Rabbi Kiva says that it's fine. She didn't spit on the floor, it's fine. Omer le Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar says to Rabbi Kiva, he says, 1 second, how could you say that it's okay if she doesn't spit on the floor? He says, Rabbi Elazar, kocha ye ose. That this, right, it says, what does the pasuk say? V'niksha yivim to elav leina ezkene v'chaltzu na'ilum al raglo v'yarka b'fanav v'ansu v'amar kocha ye ose leisha sher lo yivne ez beis achim. So shall be done. Kol davar shu ma'aseh me'akiv. Anything that is done, right? Reading isn't considered doing, but spitting, you're doing something. Removing the shoe is doing something. Anything that you're doing something, you have to do. And if you don't do it, it's a problem. Kiva says, 1 second. Bisham Raya, you're really bringing a proof from there? It's only half the story. Kocha ye'aseh la'ish. The pasuk says, so shall be done to the person. Kol davar shehu ma'aseh ba'ish. In order for it to be, significant, it has to be something that's done to the fellow, such as removing a shoe. Spitting on the floor isn't done to the fellow. So therefore, if she doesn't spit on the floor, it's still okay. If the fellow who got chalitzad was deaf, or if the Yevama was deaf, fine. Or if the Yavam is a minor, chalitza psula, the chalitza is possible. Ketana shechalza tachlutz mishetagdil, a ketana who 1 second, let me see something. Oh, interesting. Okay, fine. Very interesting. Let's go weiter for a second. But what did I just say? Oh yeah, so Katana Shechalzo Tachus Mishatagdil, that a Katana who, that she was a Katana, the Yevama was a Katana, and she did Chalitza, Tachus Mishatagdil, she has to do Chalitza a second time when she gets older. Vimlo Chalzo Chalitza Psula, and if she didn't do Chalitza, so then her Chalitza, the Chalitza that she did as a minor, doesn't work. What was interesting, Dennis, you asked the other day about a fellow whose legs were amputated above his knee. So what does he do? So this is another example, right? If you have somebody who's deaf, right? We said that if the Yavam is deaf or the Yavama is deaf, so then the Chalitza is Psula. It says Rashi, if you have the Yavama is deaf, so then the Chalitza is Psula. He atzmein and iftar is b'chalitza also. Kedaminu l'kam b'perek beishami ve'en lo takana. Here you go. Ve'en lo takana ela b'yibum. The only way, if she wants to sort of resolve this, is through yibum v'mratzu lo otzi yotzi beget. And if then afterwards, she can get a get. But that's really going to be the only option here, at least according to Rashi. I don't know if there are other options. Fine, chalta, or at least also according to this. Chalza chalitzas b'shnayim or b'shlosa. So if she did chalitza and there were 2 judges or 3 judges, v'nimtza echad min karva, possible one of the 3 turned out to be a relative or possible for some other reason, chalitzas psula, the chalitza doesn't work. Reb Shimon, Reb Yochanan, Sander machshirin. Reb Shimon and Reb Yochanan Sander say it's okay with 2 judges. There was a story where chalitza was performed between the Yavam and the Yevama in prison, and then Rabbi Akiva heard about this chalitza, and he said it was a kosher chalitza. On my Ravid, says Ravid, Hashad Amart Kriya Loy Me'akva. Says Ravid, now that you're saying that reading is not ma'akev, right? The Mishnah had said that if you don't read the verses that you have to read, and we're going to learn about what exactly you have to read in the coming days. Lo ma'akva, it's okay. The chalitza, right? As long as you remove the shoe from the foot and spat on the floor, that's enough. Lefichach, therefore, ilim ve'ilemes shechalzu chalitzasin kshera. Therefore, says Rava, if we're saying that you don't actually need to read the stuff, so then a mute who does chalitza, then it works. Tnan cherish shenechlotz v'achereshes shechalza v'acholetzes menakot chalitzas psula. 1 second. Our Mishnah said that a deaf person who if the Yavam was deaf, or if the Yevama was deaf, right, or if the Yavam was a katan, then chalitza is psula. My timer, mishum delav pnei kriyaninu. Is it not because in these cases, right, certainly by the cherish and the chereshes, the assumption is that they cannot speak, and so therefore, how can we say? How come Rava is saying that a mute would be able to do chalitza? It sounds like from our Mishnah, a mute would be unable to do chalitza because they're unable to read. Lo, mishum delav b'nei deyaninu. No, the problem with doing chalitza with a cherish is because the assumption is that they don't have they don't have knowledge. If that's the case, or intellect. If that's the case, then a mute also has no intellect. Rava says no, a mute could be very smart. Just that their mouth hurts. Meaning they have a disability, a handicap verbally, but they could, just as smart as anybody else. There's no mental handicap. Okay, fine. But don't they say by the Besmedrash of Yana lefishenu be ve'omer ve'omer? But 1 second. They say by the Besmedrash of Rabbi Yana, explaining the Mishnah, that the reason why a cheresh and a chereshes, people that are deaf, are unable to do chalitza, it's because the pasuk says ve'omar ve'omra. There are things he needs to say, things she needs to say, and they're unable to say them. So we do see that it is about being able to speak, and therefore it sounds like a mute would be unable to do chalitza. Eliki itmar dirave aseife itmar. Rather, what Rav said about the mutes is about regarding the continuation of the Mishnah. Cheresh shenechlatz v'acheresh shechalza. That a deaf person, if the Yavam was deaf or the Yevama was deaf, v'acholetzes menakain, or if the Yavam was a minor chalitzas psula, then the chalitza does not work. Omar Rava, says Rava, hasha de Omar kriya me'akva. Now that we're saying that you have to be able to read, because we're saying that a cheresh is unable to participate in chalitza, and Rabbi Yana had said that it's because they have to be able to read or be able to speak. Therefore, says Rava the opposite, which is that a mute who participated in chalitza, so then it does not work. What about our Mishnah that says in the Reisha that if you didn't read the stuff, it still works? It's like Reb Zera, Dam Reb Zera, that says Reb Zera, I believe you've seen this before. I love this. Friends, do you understand what that means? Good, let's go weiter. So, what that means is, anything that could potentially be mixed together, so then ein bila ma'akeves bo. So then mixing it is not ma'akev. But if you're unable to mix it, so then you have to be able to mix it. Meaning it's a question with korbanos, that basically if you put too much flour in the bowl, so then you won't be able to mix it all together, right, by menachos. Now the question is, but you don't even need to mix it b'chlal, So who cares if I put too much flour in the bowl? So I won't be able to mix it. Okay, mixing it isn't ma'akev. Says Reb Zera, that's not the point. The point is you have to be able to mix it, right? And as long as you're able to mix it, as long as you don't put too much flour into the bowl, so that if you wanted to mix it, you can mix it. That there's a small enough amount of flour that if you want to mix it, you can. So then, whether you mix it or not is not it won't be ma'akev. But if you put in so much flour that even if you wanted to mix it, you'd be unable to mix it, well then it's automatically possible. So therefore, yeah, but I thought you don't need to mix it anyways. You don't. But you have to at least be able to mix it. Right? Anything that is at least able to be mixed, ein bila ma'akev bo. So then, whether you mix it, whether you don't mix it, it's still kosher. But if you'd be unable to mix it, even if you wanted to, because there's too much flour in there, bila ma'akev bo. So then it's a problem. All of a sudden we'll say, well, you have to be able to mix it. Alright? Very interesting concept. They sent to the father of Shmuel, Yevamos Shirokika, if you have a Yevama who spat in front of Bezdin, she spat on the floor in front of Bezdin, but she didn't actually do chalitza, tachlotz. Well then she's going to have to do chalitza, meaning she won't be able to do yibum anymore. She went in front of the Bezdin and she spat on the floor, so then she can no longer do yibum, she's committed to chalitza. Implying that she's now puzzled to the brothers, right? She can't do yibum with them if she wanted to, right? She now has to do chalitza money. Whose opinion is this? That once she spat on the floor, so then she cannot do yibum. That itself is significant. Ilim Rabbi Akiva, if we're saying it's the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, when it came to mamish doing the mitzvah of chalitza, right? It says in the Mishnah that she's there doing chalitza, she's able to spit on the floor, she doesn't. So it's okay. It's okay. Dika l'meimar, that you could say, that it should be compared to like the emurim, the chilesnu lo ma'akve, that look, if the emurim, the parts of a korban that need to go on the mizbeach, if they become tummy or something like that, so you're not going to put it on the mizbeach. So b'seirus, you don't put it on the mizbeach. But if they're there, they're not tummy, they're kosher, they're able to go on the Torah, they're able to go on the mizbeach, so then you have to put them on the mizbeach. You can't eat the meat until you put them on the mizbeach. So again, we see a situation of, look, if they're not there, so b'seder, you don't need them, but if they're there, you need them. And therefore, I might think to say that by spitting, if she's able to spit on the floor, she should spit on the floor. And yet, still, Rabbi Kiva is saying, if she doesn't spit on the floor, it's still okay. Rabbi Kiva lo ma'akva, that it's okay even if she doesn't spit on the floor. Me'achin ifsila. So then what? If she spits on the floor now, why should that be significant? I mean, it seems like according to Rabbi Kiva, spitting on the floor is completely insignificant. Rather, maybe it's like Rabbi Lazar who says that you have to spit on the floor. If she doesn't spit on the floor, it doesn't count as chalitza. So, and now we're saying that, right, that they sent her a vua de Shmuel, that if she spits on the floor alone, so then she's not allowed to marry the brothers. But according to Belazar, then there are two things that are necessary in order to enable her to get married to other people. One being removing the shoe, the other being spitting on the floor. And when you have two things that are necessary in order to permit something, you need to do both of them, right? If she has to spit on the floor and do chalitza, so then you can't have one without the other, and therefore spitting on the floor alone would be irrelevant. Rather, it's like Rebbe the Tanis, when it comes to the two sheep that we slaughter and sacrifice and offer to the Eibishter on Atzeres, on Shavuos, they only make the bread, hektish, kodesh, with a proper shchita. When the animals are slaughtered, when the sheep are slaughtered, at that point the breads, the shtei alechem, become kadosh. Ketzad. Okay, let's take a look at this. Shachatan lishman v'zarek damin lishman kidesh alechem. So if you slaughtered the sheep, with the proper intention and threw the blood on the mizbeach with the proper intention, so then the bread becomes kadosh, holy. Shachat shelo lishman, if you slaughter the sheep with the wrong intention, v'zarek lishman, but then threw the blood with the right intention, lo kidesh alechem, the lechem does not become kadosh. Shachat on lishman v'zarek damin shelo lishman, if you slaughtered the sheep with the right intention, but then threw the blood on the Mizbeach with the wrong intention, Kadosh ve'eno Kadosh divrei Rebbe. Rebbe says, okay, so it becomes Kadosh to the extent that that you can't, that if you take it out of the Azar, it becomes possible, but it's not Kadosh to be able to become permitted to eat. So we see that according to Rebbe, you can have one thing without the other, and therefore I would think that according to Rebbe, right? So therefore we could say that it's the opinion of Rebbe who says that, right, that when she spits on the floor, even if she doesn't do chalitza, at least it works to an extent. Right? Meaning just like if you slaughter these sheep with the right intention, but then throw the blood in the mizbeach with the wrong intention, so it works to an extent, right? It says kadosh velo kadosh, right? It's kadosh liposo belina, but not lios mutar ba'achila. So here also, when she spits on the floor, so then it works to the extent that she can no longer do even with the brothers, but she's not going to be permitted to get married to somebody else until she actually does chalitza. Whereas Rabbi Shimon says no. In order for the bread to be kadosh, you have to do shchita with the proper intention and zvikas adam with the proper intention. You can't just do shchita with the right intention, but zvikas adam with the improper intention. That won't make any difference. As we like to say, jack squat. Friends, that was Daf Kuf Daled Masechta Yevamos. We learned a Mishnah where it said, we saw machlokas between the Tanakama and Rabbi Lazar, can you do Yibum at night? Tanakama says yes, Rabbi Lazar says no. Then the question is, can you do Yibum with the left foot? Tanakama says no, Rabbi Lazar says yes. Alright, we learned about doorman. A doorman is a fellow who sold himself as Jewish fellow who sold himself as a Eved Ivri, a Jewish slave, and then after 6 years he wants to remain a slave, and his master nails his right ear into the door, and he stays there forever. Okay, and then says the Mishnah, right, so we talked about there are three parts of chalitza. There's the reading, there's the spitting, and there's the removing of the shoe. So everyone agrees that the removing of the shoe must be done. Everyone also agrees that if you didn't do the reading, it works. There's machlokes between Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Kiva. What about spitting? Rabbi Lazar says you have to spit. Rabbi Kiva says you don't have to spit. All right. We also saw machlokes. Right. We of course are assuming that you have to have 3 judges for chalitza. We saw the opinion of Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yochanan Sandler. The Lamaisa, I think that they're both buried right next to each other in Meron. That you can have 2 judges, and Rabbi Kiva says you can only have 1 judge. So, friends, that was Daf Kuf Daled Masechta Yevamos. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out.